You hate the label lazy, don't you? It's a weapon used against you or we use against ourselves. We see the unfinished projects, the untouched goals, the dormancy, and we conclude we lack discipline, grit, or willpower. But what if I told you that your laziness isn't a sign of moral weakness, but a sophisticated defense mechanism? What if your deep-seated inability to start that one important thing isn't a failure to act, but a failure to connect? You are frantically trying to force yourself to work on something your soul has already rejected as hollow. The effort isn't hard because you're lazy. The effort is hard because the task itself is devoid of meaning, misaligned with your identity, or simply not yours. Stop calling yourself lazy. Start calling it what it truly is, a profound signal of spiritual or psychological misalignment. Let me ask you a question. If your laziness is truly a signal, what is it desperately trying to save you from? Make this declaration with me. My feeling of being stuck is a boundary protecting my inner truth. We live in an era obsessed with productivity, a constant push for hard work, hustle, and chasing endless goals. But when we can't keep up, we turn inward, condemning ourselves with the harshest of labels, lazy. But what if I told you this label is a lie? A convenient, yet profoundly damaging simplification? What if your so-called laziness isn't a moral failing, but a profound signal? A desperate plea from your deeper self, crying out for something more, something real. Today, we're not going to talk about time management hacks or motivational platitudes. We're going to excavate the root of this modern unease. We're going to challenge the very notion of laziness and propose a radical reframe. You are not lazy. You are simply disconnected from meaning. Now think about that for a moment and say these words of affirmation: I am not inherently lazy. We are conditioned to believe that discipline is the antidote to indolence or laziness, that sheer willpower, applied with brute force, will conquer our inertia. But true discipline, the kind that propels you forward with purpose, is rarely born from self-flagellation. It's born from resonance, connection, from alignment. Consider the child engrossed in play, building an intricate fort, lost in a world of imagination. Is that child lazy? Or the artist, toiling for hours on a canvas, oblivious to time? Lazy? They are deeply connected, engaged, driven by an inner current that makes effort feel effortless. So, when that current dries up in you, when the thought of beginning a task feels like lifting a mountain, or your focus fractures into 1,000 digital distractions, ask yourself, is this truly laziness, or is it a symptom that reflects a deeper disconnect? Let me ask you another question. What activities effortlessly consume your attention, making hours feel like minutes? Focus on them. Now say these words with me. My resistance is a message. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer believed that everything is driven by a powerful, restless inner force he called the will. It's a never-satisfied, almost blind energy that pushes us all forward. Even though Schopenhauer thought life was pretty grim because of this constant striving, he noted that for brief moments we could escape the will's demands by appreciating aesthetic contemplation, art, or beauty. In our context, we are not trying to completely escape this powerful inner drive. Instead, we want to make sure your own individual drive is focused on and lined up with something you truly care about and find meaningful. When you find yourself procrastinating, when you feel that heavy cloak of laziness descend, it's not because you can't do the work. It's often because a part of you doesn't want to. And that don't want to isn't necessarily childish defiance. It can be a sophisticated defense mechanism, protecting you from engaging in something that feels hollow, inauthentic, or utterly devoid of personal significance. We are told to push through, to just do it. But pushing through a meaningless task is like trying to ignite wet wood. You expend immense energy for very little warmth. The smoke, in this case, is your frustration, your self-reproach, and the deepening belief that you are fundamentally flawed. What would happen if you stopped fighting your resistance and instead listen to it? Make this declaration with me: I will listen to my resistance. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, gave us the concept of the shadow. the unconscious aspects of ourselves that we repress or deny. But he also spoke of individuation, the process by which we become our authentic selves, integrating these disparate parts into a coherent whole. Our laziness, in this light, can be a manifestation of the unintegrated self, the self that refuses to engage in a life that feels alien to its core. Jung recognized that true vitality comes from engaging with our inner landscape, understanding our symbols, our myths, our unique path. When we ignore this inner compass, when we force ourselves into roles or tasks that contradict our intrinsic nature, the energy dissipates. We become listless. We become lazy. But it's not the individual who is lazy, it's the situation that lacks soul. Consider the pervasive modern phenomenon of quiet quitting. It's not about slacking off, it's about drawing a boundary, refusing to pour one's entire self into something that offers no return beyond a paycheck. It's a desperate attempt to preserve energy, to prevent complete burnout, precisely because the work itself is often devoid of personal meaning. If your procrastination could speak, what secret would it reveal about your current path? Make this declaration with me: my energy follows my truth. Machiavelli, though often misconstrued as a cynic, understood human nature with brutal clarity. In The Prince, he discusses the importance of virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but a dynamic combination of skill, courage, and decisive action, driven by a clear understanding of one's goals and the means to achieve them. A leader lacking virtù is easily overwhelmed, easily loses power. Applied to the individual, if you lack virtù in your own life, that inner drive, that clarity of purpose, it's often because your goals aren't truly yours. They are inherited, imposed, or imagined aspirations that don't resonate with your deepest self. When your actions are divorced from genuine purpose, the wellspring of virtù dries up. The will to act falters. Machiavelli would likely scoff at the idea of laziness as a fixed trait. He would see it as a lack of alignment, a failure to harness one's own power towards a compelling objective. He might ask, what is it you truly desire to conquer, and why are you not yet moving to conquer it? The answer, more often than not, lies in the why, not the how. What inherited goal or expectation are you pursuing that secretly drains your virtù? Say these words with me: I reclaim my authentic purpose. So, how do we bridge this confusion between our current state and a life infused with meaning? It begins with brutal honesty. Stop shaming yourself. Stop the incessant internal monologue of, I should, I should, I should. Instead ask, why don't I want to? Get curious about your resistance. Step 1. Identify the disconnect. Where does your energy leak? What tasks feel like pulling teeth? What do you consistently avoid? Be specific. Is it your job, a creative project, a personal responsibility? Name one area of your life where you consistently feel lazy. Make this declaration: I acknowledge my disconnects. Step 2. Uncover the underlying why. Once you've identified the area, dig deeper. Why does it feel meaningless? Is it because, 1, it doesn't align with your values? For example, you value creativity, but your job is purely administrative. It feels inauthentic to your identity. You see yourself as a visionary, but you're stuck in mundane tasks. You don't see the purpose or impact. This could mean that you're performing a task but don't understand its larger significance. It's driven by external pressure, not internal desire. For example, you're pursuing a degree your parents wanted, not the one you chose. You lack the necessary skills or knowledge, and the prospect of learning feels overwhelming, triggering a fear response that manifests as laziness. This introspection requires courage. It requires facing uncomfortable truths about your choices, your environment, and perhaps your own suppressed desires. Ask yourself this question: what core value or identity is being violated by the task you avoid? Now make this declaration with me: I seek alignment with my values. Step 3. Re-engineer or reimagine. This is where the transformation truly begins. Once you understand the why behind your laziness, you now have power. If the task itself is salvageable, can you imbue it with meaning? Can you connect it to a larger purpose that does resonate with you? Even a seemingly mundane task can become meaningful if you understand its contribution to something you care about. If the task is truly misaligned, can you delegate it, automate it, or most courageously, eliminate it entirely? This may mean difficult conversations, career changes, or a radical restructuring of your life. But continuing to bang your head against a wall of meaninglessness is a far greater drain. If it's a fear of inadequacy, this isn't laziness, it's self-preservation. Break the task down into smaller, manageable steps. Seek knowledge, mentorship, or practice. The laziness isn't due to a lack of will, but a lack of perceived capability, which, when unaddressed, feels like a monumental effort to overcome. What small actionable step can you take today to either realign a task or begin to shed a misaligned one? Make this affirmation. I choose intentional action over passive inertia. We established that your so-called laziness is not a defect, but a diagnosis, a boundary. Your system is not broken, it is simply rejecting a poor quality fuel. But this awareness alone is not enough. The gap between knowing you are misaligned and actually moving is vast. We must arm ourselves with a deeper philosophy, one that transforms passive resistance into active will. Let us talk about the tyranny of the unexamined how. The modern discourse is obsessed with the how to manage time, how to hack productivity, how to optimize routine. We are given blueprints, templates, and 12-step systems for success and all that. But all of this advice collapses when the why is absent or fraudulent. Imagine trying to build a skyscraper without knowing its function. You have the best cranes, the most optimized schedule, the most disciplined workers, but no architecture. The moment a challenge arises, the project halts because the builders have no inherent belief in what they are creating. They are mercenaries of the moment, not architects of a vision. Your life is that skyscraper. When you feel that dead weight of procrastination, it's often because you are using enormous resources, your time, your focus, your energy, on something that exists only for superficial gain, a better status, a higher number, or to satisfy someone else's definition of good. The lack of an inner why is the source of the draining resistance you call laziness. Here is a thought-provoking question. What is the underlying purpose of the one task you avoid the most? If you stripped away all external rewards, would a compelling reason remain? Write this declaration in the comment. I prioritize the why over the how. Let's talk about Nietzsche's The Fire of Purpose. Friedrich Nietzsche, the great challenger of passive living, gave us the ultimate truth about purposeful action. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. This is the antidote to the victim mentality that accompanies self-condemnation. Your inability to bear the how, the mundane, the difficult, the tedious steps, is proof you haven't truly earned your why. You haven't forged a purpose compelling enough to demand your action. Nietzsche would scoff at the idea of simply motivating oneself for a task one secretly despises. That's a temporary sugar rush. True, enduring discipline, the kind that allows the sculptor to strike the stone 1,000 times for the single perfect form, comes from a why that burns so brightly it illuminates the entire path, even the dark, dusty corners. When you are deeply connected to a purpose, be it raising a child with integrity, mastering a difficult craft, or building a vision that outlasts you, the petty annoyances and hard work become necessary friction. They are the cost of entry, not obstacles to be overcome. A professional climber doesn't call the painful grip on the rock lazy. The pain is proof of the commitment to reach the top. Your pain and resistance are only called laziness when you don't believe in that top. Now ask yourself a question. If your life's work were a mountain, what kind of suffering would you consider a necessary mark of honor? Write this declaration in the comment, "My discomfort is a measure of my devotion." The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl refined this idea through his own brutal experiences. He developed logotherapy, which posits that the primary driving force in life is not pleasure, but the discovery and pursuit of what he called meaning. Frankl observed that in the concentration camps, those who survived were often those who had a future-oriented task, a reason to live, either a loved one to see, a book to finish, or a testimony to give. Frankl stated, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." Let that sink in. Not the circumstances, not the workload, the market crash, the terrible boss, but the lack of meaning is what renders your burden unbearable. When you feel paralyzed, overwhelmed, or stuck, it is often because your current reality offers no purpose worthy of your suffering. The paradox of logotherapy is that meaning often comes from the very thing you are running from. When you embrace the tension between what you are and what you ought to be, that tension, according to Frankl, is a sign of mental health. Your laziness is the desperate attempt to resolve this tension by sinking back into comfort, instead of rising to the challenge of your potential self. Here is another thought-provoking question. What is the single most important, unfinished task that life is currently demanding of you? Say this with me: I embrace the tension between what I am and what I must become. The courage to be choosy. This transformation requires not more motivation, but more courage. The courage to disappoint the expectations of others in favor of the demands of your own soul. You must become choosy. You must stop treating your time, your most finite resource, like a public utility available to any distraction or demand. Your misalignment, your feeling of being lazy, is the natural result of treating yourself like a general-purpose machine instead of a highly specialized instrument. If a concert violinist is forced to spend her days doing menial office work, her resistance is not laziness. It's the appropriate response of a highly tuned instrument being misused. Her energy is not missing, it is being suppressed. Your task now is not to hustle harder, but to apply the scalpel of truth. Cut the dead wood. Identify the activities or relationships you maintain purely out of guilt, expectation, or inertia. Be ruthless. They are the thieves of your energy. Define your specialization. What unique problem is only you, equipped or obsessed enough to solve? This is where your passion and competence intersect. This is the seed of your meaning. Submit to the new how. Once the meaning is clear, you must willingly submit to the discipline it requires. Not the discipline of a slave forced to work, but the discipline of a craftsman voluntarily submitting to the rigor of the material. This chosen discipline is what Nietzsche meant by self-mastery. The greatest act of defiance against a culture of superficial productivity is to refuse to work on what doesn't matter. Your laziness is a final, desperate act of integrity. Honor it. Listen to it. Then channel that fierce, protective energy into the direction that finally, truly calls to you. If you could only have energy for one pursuit, what would you immediately discard to protect it? You don't need to answer this question in the comment. You just need to have an honest self-reflection about it. Remember, authenticity is not a destination, it's a practice. It's a continuous process of calibration, of listening to that inner signal, that intuitive pull towards what invigorates you, and away from what drains your very soul. The world will continue to demand, to judge, to label, but you have the power to redefine your own experience, to reject the simplistic condemnation of laziness and embrace the profound wisdom of your own resistance. You are not lazy. You are a complex being, yearning for purpose, connection, and balance. Your laziness is not a flaw. It is an intelligent warning system. Heed its call. Uncover your meaning, and watch as the supposed chains of laziness simply fall away, replaced by the unstoppable force of an awakened will. Answer this question in the comments. What is the one genuine desire you have suppressed, fearing it was impractical or lazy? Say these words: I permit myself to pursue what truly nourishes me. The path to a meaningful life is not paved with endless hustle, but with deliberate alignment. It is the courageous act of choosing what resonates, even when it's difficult, over what is merely convenient or expected. This journey is yours alone. It demands honesty, introspection, and the audacious belief that your energy, your passion, your very virtue is worth fighting for. Now you've found the truth. You weren't failing. You were just protecting yourself. Stop feeling guilty about the energy you didn't have for things that didn't matter. Realize the immense power you gain when you finally stop the empty hustle. The focused, driven life you want doesn't need better tips. It needs a stronger reason. Your job now is to find a purpose so strong that thinking about it lights a fire inside you, making the hard work feel necessary, not impossible. This change isn't something that happens to you. It's a decision you actively make. The courageous act of building your authentic self. Embrace the difficult demands, because the discipline you choose for a goal you believe in is the highest form of self-control. You are not hunting for motivation. You are simply building a new way of being around an unshakable why. Step forward today, knowing that the difficulty you feel is the essential heat needed to shape the strongest version of yourself. If this message challenged your thinking, and you are ready to choose meaningful action over just waiting and doing nothing, then act now. For nothing ever really changes, things are made to change. So, go forth, not to overcome laziness, but to rediscover your meaning. And in doing so, you will find an unshakable drive that no label can ever diminish. Like this video and subscribe to this channel to join this continuous path of difficult but necessary deep introspection. And share this message with anyone you know who confuses lack of purpose with lack of will. This is the first step toward reclaiming your drive. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. Until next time, dare to question, dare to feel, and dare to live a life aligned with your deepest truth.